Hi, I'm Enguerrand. I'm the founder of CaseCoach. I'm a former manager and interviewer with McKinsey. In this video, I will be interviewed by Rob, another McKinsey alumnus. We'll be going through a case similar to the ones you'll be asked to solve in an interview at McKinsey, Bain, BCG, or another top consulting firm. Rob will interrupt from time to time to share his feedback. Let's get started.
Okay, well, that's all of my questions with regard to your background.
Yeah.
There'll be a bit of time at the end if you have questions for me as well, but I thought it would be good to go into a case at this stage and just try and solve a mock business problem, as it were.
Sounds good.
So with this one, let me give you an overview of the client and the problem before we get started. With this one, our client is a company called Flashfash.
Okay.
They're a US multinational apparel company with revenue of around $25 billion.
Sorry, $25 billion?
$25 billion. And they own some of the best-known mid-market brands in North America and the West generally. They sell 70% of their products through their own network of corporate-owned stores.
Okay.
So their own stores, basically. And then the remaining 30% they sell through multi-brand retailers.
Okay. So it's a bit like a Gap or a Zara or something like that.
Exactly that kind of style. But in addition to what I described, they operate a relatively distinctive business model where instead of committing large percentages of their volume up front ahead of a season for production, they commit a small amount and then use customer feedback and their relatively flexible production processes to then ramp up products and replenish stores weekly in response to what they see happening in the market.
So they're super fast.
They're super fast. Actually, it only takes 15 days for them to go from design to production.
Oh, wow.
And so they can observe what's happening with customer feedback and then respond to that. As part of this client's growth strategy, Flashfash are considering the acquisition of a company called La Mode.
Yep.
Now, La Mode are the leading independent retailer of luxury brands online, and they account for around 3% of all online apparel sales in North America.
Sorry, 3% of online apparel sales in North America.
That's right.
And you say they're an independent?
Yeah, so they're an independent retailer of luxury fashion.
So they're not. It's not their own brand. They're basically selling other people's brand.
Mostly, although they have recently launched their own brand, which comprises around 5% of their revenue.
Okay.
But their model is, in addition to being a luxury player, they operate a curation model. So they curate products from the best brands they can find and then present a large collection of around 30,000 items, all kind of in that luxury high-end segment.
Okay, so basically Flashfash is more mid-market, but La Mode is really top-end.
That's right.
So it's like, $1,000 handbag and that kind of thing.
That's exactly it.
I mean, for, I guess, clothes.
Yes. That's
Men and women?
Yeah, both menswear and womenswear. And so Flashfash have just asked us whether they should acquire La Mode.
Okay. Sounds good. And so that's really the question: should we acquire or not this business?
That's right.
And do you know why they would like to acquire it? Is it, what's the idea behind it?
Yeah, so they have a growth strategy right now. They're obviously a reasonably large player.
Yeah.
They're looking to grow to a larger scale.
Yeah.
They're looking basically for long-term sustainable profits and returns to shareholders.
Yeah.
And they see acquisitions as one potential lever for that.
Okay. So they feel like, they're a more traditional business, probably not growing as fast as La Mode, and that could be a way to accelerate their growth.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly it.
Makes sense. And do they want us to look at alternatives, or should we just focus on this business?
We should just focus on this business for now.
Okay. Do you mind if I take a few seconds to put my thoughts on paper?
Absolutely. Take your time. There are a couple of good things about this opening to the case. First, you'll notice how the candidate's done a good job to really clearly specify the problem. He's not just determined that the candidate is considering an acquisition, he's asked why they're considering it. He's asked whether this is a binary decision or whether we are looking at other acquisitions as part of this. So he's taken a lot of care to really clearly specify and understand what the problem is. Second, notice how right off the bat he's driving the thinking. He's suggesting particular hypotheses. He's making assumptions. He's asking questions. He's probing. So right from the start, he's leading the thinking. He's showing good case leadership and good drive to try and solve this problem.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so basically you want us to figure out whether Flashfash should acquire La Mode.
Yes.
There are three areas I would like to look at. First one is I would like to understand La Mode as a business and its standalone value. So, is it an attractive company in general without any link to us.
Right.
Once we figure that out, and look at synergies, because we combine those two business, can we do more than just adding them up?
Yeah.
And finally, our capabilities. Are we able to integrate those two business? Do we have the skills, the money, etc.?
Okay.
If I go to the value of Lamode as a business, I think the one question is what's the market growth of this kind of online apparel luxury market? Mm-hmm. I would assume that there's probably a lot of growth in Asia, or emerging countries where you have a bigger middle class.
Yes.
That can afford those type of clothes. So I'd like to check that. And once we've done that, I also want to understand whether that business model is a winning business model. Is the company equipped to maintain or grow its share over time? Mm-hmm. Is it going to face competition from the online stores of the luxury retailers? Is Chanel and all these others, are they going to distribute directly online rather than going through people like Lamode? I think that's an important question.
Okay.
If we figure out, that actually there's something here, and the value of the business is below, what it could get to given the growth of the market and their positioning, then that's interesting. But we'd want to look after that to the synergies, as I said. Okay. And that's my...
What do you have in mind?
For synergies?
Yeah.
Well, we want to understand whether if we combine the business, can we accelerate our growth? For instance, maybe we can sell our products to their websites and their brand, and maybe that will help us grow our core business. I have to say I'm a little skeptical about this because they have a luxury positioning, we have a mid-market positioning, so I'm not sure there's synergies there. There could be some synergies in terms of cost. Because I'm sure we will have some, and we have some overlapping footprint. So I would think, for instance, our online operations, logistics, delivery, customer service, maybe there is a way to combine those and decrease our cost. Right. So I would look in depth at those synergies, both in cost and revenue, and capabilities. Here it's going. I mentioned a few ideas before. Around our skills and our know-how. Obviously, it looks like our know-how, Flashfash, is really about being super quick at manufacturing new styles.
Yes.
Not sure to what extent that would be helpful to Lamode. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. Basically, we're leveraging our core capability with.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. I think those all sound like reasonable areas to explore.
Okay.
Here, the candidate's performing very well on each of the dimensions that we recommend. We've already talked about how he's identified the problem very well. But if we look at the other elements, he's divided this problem neatly into 3 categories. These are mutually exclusive. You can solve for one of them without overlapping with the others. Obviously, this is a very effective way to go about solving a problem. Next, he's encompassed all of the core factors that could be important here. He's talked about everything from synergies to standalone value to capabilities. He's already specified that for this problem, we're not looking at opportunity cost of other acquisition options. So really, he's captured pretty much everything you'd need to solve a problem of this type. Then he's adapted his structure to the situation. In some respects, this is a relatively standard framework for solving M&A questions, but he's adapted it well by suggesting, for example, specific cost synergy options, such as logistics, which would be important for an e-commerce player of this type. Then lastly, he's begun to suggest specific insights and ideas. Within each of his buckets, he's got sub-elements, sub-drivers, and even specific thoughts and suggestions, which can initially signpost his thinking even at this stage. And as with the introduction to the case, he's again showing his strong case leadership in beginning to suggest thoughts and ideas and suggestions of his own at this stage. Let's maybe start with one of the areas you touched upon in passing. I think you mentioned Asia as a potential area to look at, and this is something that we've been interested to explore as well. Now, the client believes that there's an opportunity for Lamode to realize 1/3 of its global sales in Asia within 5 years. They believe this partly because...
excuse me. So 1/3 of Lamode sales would come from Asia.
That's the client's belief, or at least their initial hypothesis.
In 5 years, okay.
Right. Now, that sounds like an aggressive number, but the reason they believe that is partly because of the growth rate of online apparel in Asia, where the overall apparel market is expected to double in this time frame, and at the same time, the share of purchases made online is expected to triple. So really, it's a relatively fast growth rate.
So that means that the online apparel market in Asia should be multiplied by 6 over 5 years.
Exactly. And so the question for us is simply what share of the Asia online apparel market Lamode would need to reach in order to capture this opportunity?
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so I think if I want to find out our share of the Asia online apparel market in 5 years, that means I need to have our sales in Asia in 5 years and the size of the market in Asia in 5 years, which we already know that that number is 6 times the size of the market in Asia now. So I think we need a few more elements here. First, do we have an idea of the sales that we would achieve?
Right, so we know that at the moment Lamode is at around 2 billion.
Okay.
We believe in this time period they can be expected to triple.
Okay. Okay, so basically 2 billion now, multiplied by 3, and then divided by 3 to get the Asia share. So that's 2 billion for Lamode. Do you have an idea of the size of the market in Asia now?
We do, it's 8 billion.
It's 8 billion. Okay, 6 billion today. 8 billion multiplied by 6. That will be our market size in 5 years. So I put 2 billion over this. So that's going to be, so billion. And that's going to be 1 out of 24, which is going to be 4.2%. So that means that we would need to have a 4.2% share of the Asia online market in 5 years.
Right. Sounds aggressive, no?
Well, yeah, because I think you said we had 3% of the online apparel market in the US right now. And it looks like this is our core market. So it means not only we're going to have to, go into Asia, which is not our core market, and take shares that are way above what we currently have in our market. So again, I'd be curious to see how we're going to achieve this, because that sounds extremely ambitious.
Okay, no, I would agree. It sounds somewhat aspirational on the face of it. This is on the whole a very strong quantitative section of the interview. Now, of course, the candidate's computed the numbers quickly and proficiently, but there are many other things he's done quite well here. Notice how he opened the section by describing what he's going to calculate and how he's going to calculate it. By laying out the approach first, he's able to show structure. He's also able to allow the interviewer to engage and intervene if perhaps the structure he's setting up is not the right one. Next, notice how he sanity checks his numbers as he's going through. He's testing them to see if they make sense, whether intuitively they feel right, so he can minimize the risk of any errors coming through. Last, notice how he describes not just what the answer is, but what it means. He thinks this answer is aggressive, and he connects that to particular information he's gleaned from earlier on in the interview. Stylistically, notice how it's also very open and conversational. It's tempting in these sections of the interviews to go away, calculate numbers, and then come back. But all else being equal, you want to be doing your calculations visibly and out loud. This allows your interviewer to see what you're doing, and if nothing else, it allows them to jump in and correct you if perhaps you might be making a mistake, which otherwise you would only announce at the end. So it's quite a useful style, and it's effective in this instance.
Okay.
Let's move on. So you touched upon a couple of other elements of your structure, and I think one aspect that's interesting to look at is synergies.
Yes, sure.
We do have a reasonable amount of data on this, and we've compiled this exhibit with information on both our client and the target. I'd like you to just have a look at this and let me know your thoughts on whether overall there seem to be potential synergies which seem appealing between the companies based on the information that you have.
Okay, so here we have some information about Flashfash and Lamode. We have the sales by geography and an idea of the annual growth. We have the share of their online sales. Then we have some information about the transaction cost. Average purchase, so that's the average purchase of a client, I assume?
That's right. And the transaction cost, just so you know, is combination of fulfillment costs, customer service, and payment processing primarily.
Okay, and then cost of goods sold. Okay, so we understand the cost, and then our own brand. Okay, so how much within our sales come from our own brand, which is 100% at Flashfash, of course. Sounds good. Okay, so if we look at synergies, so the first thing is there is definitely, La Mode is really concentrated in North America and Europe and pretty much absent from Asia. So again, like that 12.5% seems even more aggressive when you look at this, if we have zero presence at the moment.
Yeah, they're growing from scratch there.
Yeah, so I think you would need probably to acquire an existing business or do something else. But so in any case, there is an opportunity for Flashfash to help La Mode grow outside of North America and Europe, definitely. La Mode is growing faster than Flashfash, 31% against 4%. That doesn't surprise me. It's an online business. It's on probably a growing market. It would be interesting to know whether it grows faster than the market. But I don't think that means that we have particular synergies here. Online presence. So obviously, so La Mode does 2 billion online, and we do 22% of our business online, which actually is, so it's like above 5 billion. So it's interesting because Flashfash, which is meant to be a more traditional business, actually does, 2 to 3 times more sales online than La Mode. Yeah. I was expecting maybe we could gain expertise on the online marketing, etc., from La Mode, but we're probably, as knowledgeable as them about this.
No, that's right. In absolute terms, we're doing far greater sales online, and we have decent expertise in that area.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, there is something there. What's interesting in the transaction cost is we can see like the average purchase is very different. $413 for La Mode's, $78 for Flashfash. So we're in very different markets. So that's kind of confirming that our clients are probably not the same. I don't think the Flashfash products being distributed by La Mode make sense. It's just not the same level in the market.
Yeah.
Cost of goods sold and transaction cost. What's really fascinating is La Mode's transaction cost is $48 against $6 for Flashfash. So it looks like because we're a luxury online retailer, we'll probably give a 5-star service to our clients in terms of delivery. That must be super fast. I assume, free returns for like a month, like customer service that is like tip-top where you can call someone and get some help. It makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So everything from the packaging itself to the delivery experience to the support experience is really in the premium tier.
So what's interesting is because our cost of goods sold is 46% as Flashfash, and our purchase average is $78. It means that in terms of margin, we make around $40 at Flashfash on a sale, which is less than the transaction cost of La Mode. So that means that even if the clients wanted to buy Flashfash products on the La Mode website, if we deliver the same quality of service, we would be basically losing money.
That's right.
So we can't really serve the Flashfash clients profitably with the La Mode model. So again, something against that idea that we can all of a sudden distribute our products through their work.
Are there any potential opportunities in terms of cost synergies between these two players?
There might be. I'm thinking, obviously, the own brand. We do that really. That's what we do, right? I assume La Mode is outsourcing a lot of the production of their products, and maybe we can help them decrease their cost of goods sold on the own brand products. But overall, when I look at this, my conclusion is, in terms of revenue synergies, is a pretty weak case. There might be something in terms of international development, but the idea of combining the two businesses to distribute the products of one in the other doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Yeah. So at this stage, I would say, on the basis of this analysis, it's kind of confirming that it's probably not a good acquisition target for us.
The candidate starts this section by kind of describing what he sees in the exhibit. This is useful as a means to check his understanding, but it also buys time. By opening the discussion around just what's on the exhibit, discussing this with the interviewer and so on, he's able to buy himself time to start thinking about what the insights are in this exhibit, which he then goes on to comment on. When it comes to how he describes the insights he's able to glean from the exhibit, you'll notice how the candidate is not only generating standalone insights from particular data points, but he's combining them. He's looking for opportunities to spot connections between data points or comparisons. For example, when he comments on the absolute sales online that he's seen with Flashfash. Then notice again how at every stage the candidate is commenting on not just what the numbers are, but what they mean in the context of his emerging hypothesis and the question he's been asked. And you can see throughout that generally the candidate is seeing that this exhibit supports his emerging view, that this acquisition is not going to be very compatible from a synergies perspective.
No, I think it's a reasonable assessment. They have very different structures. They operate in quite a different way. Okay, but let's switch gears again to look at just a broader area.
Okay.
So beyond potential synergies with Flashfash, which we've looked at, what ideas do you have to accelerate the organic growth of LaMode?
Accelerate the organic growth of LaMode. Okay, that's interesting. Because it's already growing pretty fast.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well already.
So if we step back a little bit, so LaMode is so it's an online retailer of fashion, right? Luxury products.
That's right.
Mostly in the developed world. So the question is, can we do more? I think we talked about the first one is obviously the geography, so accelerate that geographical footprint is clear. Luxury, there is a question, could we use that model, maybe launch a different brand, but launch a slightly less upmarket version of LaMode and start to go more mass market?
So drift slightly in that direction, but still be towards the premium end.
Well, I think what you would do is you probably launch a different brand, to be honest. You use some of the same infrastructure, not all, because obviously the service level is not going to be the same. But you could, presumably you've gained some expertise in this.
Yes.
And you could imagine a slightly less expensive copycat.
Okay, makes sense. So
that's one. Obviously at the moment we're doing fashion. I'm wondering to what extent we could penetrate other categories. You see how big brands like Armani, who are fashion brands, obviously perfume is one thing, so they do cosmetics, but now they start doing furniture as well. So you could imagine selling furniture and all sorts of fashion accessories. So there are some luxury categories beyond fashion, where I think because of our positioning we could be legitimate.
Yes.
And then online, at the moment we're a pure online player. Could we start having some flagship stores in airports, for instance, where we're going to meet some of the same clients who are, buy expensive fashion and like the curated model because they don't have a lot of time, so they like to be able to go somewhere and find some really good things.
Right.
So I think physical retail is another idea. So these are all kind of new business ideas. There might be another categories around how can we do what we already do but better? How can we sell more to our existing clients? How can we accelerate our client acquisition?
How might you go about doing that?
Well, I would think like in terms of selling more to existing clients, there's a lot of things happening with data science. We're now able to pinpoint exactly what's the next product that one person is going to be likely to want to buy because of their past purchase and online behavior. Are we doing this? In terms of acquiring new clients, I'd love to see our online marketing is working.
Yes.
Is our advertising really our spend optimized? And again, I think some new technologies can help with that. So, here it's hard to tell whether there's an opportunity. We'd need to look at their current practices, but we'd want to check their state of the art.
It's definitely something to explore, I think.
So this, of course, was a creative thinking section, and the candidate handles it quite well. He suggests ideas in a number of categories, from new product categories to opening physical retail stores, to simply finding ways to extract more growth opportunity from our current customer base. The way he sets up these categories is quite effective. It can be hard to generate ideas in a vacuum, but if you're able to come up with categories of ideas, going from those to generate specifics is relatively easy. And this provides a platform for him to generate quite creative insights, such as perhaps moving from purely fashion products through to perhaps launching perfume or other products using our luxury brand to help with that. So overall, it's a strong performance on this section of the interview.
Good. Okay. So look, I think we've covered a fair amount of ground.
Yeah.
There's more that we would want to look at if we were doing this as a longer project. But based on what you've seen so far, what's your overall message to the client at this stage?
So, I mean, you've asked us whether it makes sense for you to acquire La Mode. At this stage, we don't think so, at least not because of the existing growth plan and synergies. We think that the growth plan in Asia is probably overly optimistic. You need to capture a 4.2% share in 5 years of a market where you have 0% share now. In terms of synergies, we really haven't found many revenue synergies beyond like accelerating your geographical penetration of developing countries, which is not a lot. So on that front, it doesn't seem to make sense. Now, La Mode is an interesting business. It's growing pretty fast. We have identified ways to develop that franchise beyond this immediate scope. So you could still realize it's a good acquisition just for a pure financial standpoint, and we would happily look into this.
The concluding synthesis here is short and effective. The candidate uses a standard framework we've discussed elsewhere in the materials. He starts after reminding us of the question by giving the overall answer itself, that this doesn't seem to make sense as an acquisition target. Next, he lists out his key supporting points and reasons for why this is the case. Then last, he concludes with some next steps, and the idea that this might be good as a standalone acquisition is a fair comment to end the case on. So again, this is a model interview, but this performance reflects an outstanding overall case performance and the rare example of a case that's really strong across the board. Now, if we look first at the way he develops rapport and presence, really this is a good example. The candidate does a good job of showing poise, showing confidence, and pushing the thinking in such a way that he comes across almost as a consultant working on a problem rather than an interviewee. So he performs very well when it comes to presence. Communication, the same applies. The candidate is very concise, very clear, very organized in his thinking. He uses visuals when effective, and this works very well to communicate the points he wants to convey. Lastly, when it comes to case leadership, I'd say this is really a distinctive performance. You'll notice how the candidate, right from the beginning of the interview, was beginning to generate ideas and hypotheses, beginning to test his thinking. At every stage, even though this was mostly an interviewer-led interview, he's developing ideas and pushing the thinking forward. So it's a very good approach from these characteristics. When it comes to the more technical aspects of the interview, this is clearly a very strong performance too. If we go through the list of assessment criteria, on structuring, the candidate performs extremely well when it comes to going through the ideas criteria we've laid out in the materials. In everything from identifying the problem well to suggesting specific insights about how he could solve it, the candidate's doing a very good job here. On numeracy, I'd say it's really a distinctive performance. Not only is the candidate organized and structured in his approach, but he simply deals with the numbers very quickly and very accurately, both in the specific maths question we set early in the case and in the exhibit exercise, where he's combining numbers and using them in effective ways. On judgment and insight, while there perhaps aren't a ton of opportunities here to go through conceptual problem solving and show your kind of qualitative analysis, the candidate does show fantastic judgment in connecting information he finds in one part of the case to other parts of the case, which makes this a very much above the bar performance on judgment and insight. On creative thinking, this is a distinctive performance. The candidate displays a wide range of ideas in 5 categories on the specific question we ask on creative thinking, and many of them are non-obvious, so he's displaying a good ability to come up with ideas and generate just new ideas and insights. Lastly, I'd say it's really distinctive too when it comes to synthesis. The candidate synthesizes well throughout the case, but in the conclusion itself, he's both concise and structured, and he's able to communicate the insight in a way that seems very compelling and captures the essence of the problem he's managed to solve.
Thank you for watching till the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Now, if you'd like to get more free video and prep material, including the PDF solution of Flashfash, just follow the link below to sign up to our mailing list. See you soon on CaseCoach.com.